Is about to go live.
Excellent.
All right, streaming is live and we are recording.
Thank you.
So I'll be in the background if you need me for anything.
Thank you, Craig.
You're very welcome.
Hi, welcome everybody. We'll just give it a couple more minutes for folks to join, but we are live streaming.
And Sarah, you'll just let me know when we have quorum.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
We are almost there. Well, we technically do have quorum because we're only missing 3 at the moment.
Oh, we should get started then.
Go ahead and get started.
Yeah, Jim, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Sure, I can. I may ask you to help, go through last week a little bit, but so welcome everybody. Glad you came back. Let me say that. So that's the first thing, that you were willing to come back for a second Friday afternoon. And by the way, did I tell you not it was going to rain last Friday? I said it's going to be raining. Well, not quite, but kind of close. Anyway, so I'm glad you're here. This is the second day, the second session of us working together to redefine, who we are. And we had a great discussion last week. I appreciate everyone's participation and their ideas, and just sort of looking forward and talking about what we want this to be. So you made facilitating really easy. Didn't have to call on many people, lots of folks engaged. And what I hope is that we have another engaging session today, just like we did last week. We're going to use kind of last week as a springboard to focus on a specific aspect, particularly the mission of the organization. That will be our big content topic today. But hopefully we'll have as robust.
Are you with us, Jim?
Okay? Did I lose you?
No, we're here.
Okay, I lost you on my screen. It logged me out for some reason. But you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to keep talking, trying to do both here and get it started. Let me walk us through our agenda today, and then I will probably ask for Tamara, if it's okay, some help, and maybe some of the MAG staff to help us with reflecting and debriefing from last week. We'll talk about sort of the highlights, and maybe it's a kind of a joint little topic that all of us can participate in, but what are those key takeaways or learning points maybe that we all discovered or had from last week? I think several of us have some. We probably want to throw this out to all of you to sort of validate. And I think also, likewise, there were some immediate things that can be done or taken to the next steps. And we want to talk about and summarize what some of those action items could be. We'll then get into the second portion of the agenda, which really is, and we proposed this last week, was really to talk about the mission of the COC. And we had sent out the mission statement that you all have been operating under. I think for some that was maybe a newer mission statement. It hasn't been maybe discussed much, or maybe it's even completely new. But we are going to talk about it, and I'd like to talk about it almost like it's a white sheet of paper, right? You have what was operated under as the mission statement, but we would like to sort of look at it as, if we're going forward, what might our mission, or what should it be? And it's a very important piece of information that's sort of foundational. It's an anchor for almost all organizations. It gives them sort of direction. We'll talk about kind of what the mission statement looked like. And we're going to try to do this in what we think will be a fun and engaging way. We're going to use, you got an email from Sarah. Sarah's going to help us with this using Mural. It's almost like having a virtual whiteboard. And we're going to kind of work on that whiteboard together and then use that to capture some of these ideas about the mission statement, which I think you'll find will be fun and helpful. And then we'll close and talk about next steps. We'll close and talk about where we go from here. And we'll talk about, I know you have a board meeting on Monday, the 25th. We need to talk about that and any other takeaways. So that's kind of our agenda today. We've got a couple hours. I appreciate you joining. We'll take a break like we did last time for a few minutes, halfway through, so we can get up and stretch or do whatever you need to do. So with that, let me, Tamara, I'll kind of kick it back maybe to you and maybe others that may want to talk about some of the highlights maybe from session 1.
I would like to punt this over to MAG staff first, and then I'll go after them, if that's okay.
Sure. Is it good if I jump in, Tamara? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. At first, really do want to thank everyone. Last week's discussion, I think, was very, very important to have. And it was candid. And I think that demonstrates a fair level of trust and commitment to seeing this through. And we understand that conversations like that sometimes can be uncomfortable, but they're important to have. It's important to look at where we've been, to understand how we got here, and to understand what we need to do to move forward. So I really thank you for that. I thank you for offering your really candid, constructive comments, and really look forward to working with all of you as we move forward. So would love to get your thoughts, your impressions for how last week went, because it helps us to understand how we can do even better with the session today. There were some very immediate things that we could move on right away. And so I did want to just offer a really brief update in terms of what those were. Really heard you loud and clear, and we share the commitment to more fully engaging members of the public, particularly in the board committee, particularly in the board meetings. And so we did have a great meeting with our IT staff. We have some additional functionality that we did not have before. So in the future, if this is your wish, we can, instead of having a Zoom meeting for your board meetings, we can have a Zoom webinar that allows us some additional functionality. Zoom has made some changes on their end. So that means that so you as the board members, you'll be considered panelists in that webinar. But then anybody from the public can register to come into that meeting. And so they'll be able to speak. You'll be able to talk back and forth with them. People will be able to see you. I don't think they'll necessarily be able to see the members of the public, but in every other way, they'll be fully in the room with you, just like if we were meeting in person. So if you think of it, in person, you're all sitting around the table, and then the audience is right there. But we're really excited about this change. We think this is really important. They'll also be able to provide written comments as well. So the written, the verbal, all right in the meeting with you. And so if you are supportive of that, we can make that change right away and start doing that. That means that each of you will receive your own link when you're registered for the meeting. So we'll give IT the list of the board members and the other people that we know are coming. And if anyone else wants to come, all they need to do is, hey, I want to come. Great, here's your link. So they don't need to let us know that they want to comment. They can just be in this virtual room with us. And so we thank you for your commitment in that space. We share that, and we're really excited about these new options that we just didn't have before when the pandemic first started. So we do think that that'll be really, really positive. Also, in terms of looking at other changes that we can make right away, originally we had seen this as kind of a 2-part series. But again, if you want to, we can continue meeting like this as kind of a strategic planning series. And so we can extend it because we understand there's some very important foundational work to do. And so if you're wanting to continue having these strategic planning sessions, we can absolutely do that. We know all of you are busy, and we want to make sure that we're using your time in the best way possible. So let us know what that looks like for you and where you think your time would be best spent. We do want to deeply engage you in all aspects of the work. So on Monday's agenda, we do have an item there, really wanting to identify how can we fully engage you in the efforts that are underway right now around developing those strategies, keeping in mind that the strategies don't replace the plan. So when you're talking about having a regional plan to end homelessness, we still very much need that. And that is absolutely clearly board driven. We want the board to drive the current activities as well. And so we'll be having some very specific discussion about your engagement. We understand that you have important jobs above and beyond your service on the board. So some of you may just want kind of more updates. Some of you may want to really get in with us and be in those operational planning meetings. Fantastic. We absolutely want you, need you there. So we'll have that. So we do have that on the agenda for Monday, and really look forward to your engagement, whatever form that takes. And then 2, there's some discussion, again, really appreciate it in terms of the protocols around when things change direction. I know there's a lot of confusion and consternation around pausing the new member recruitment. So we want to be really clear about what are the protocols and the expectations when things do change direction. We have 2 options for that, and we look to you to help us understand which format you prefer the best. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll consult with the board chair, and that's no matter who the board chair is. And then other times things will come forward for a specific vote. So it'll come to the board for a vote, it's on the agenda. So we never change directions without doing one of those 2 things. And if you prefer that it comes before the board for a full vote, we can absolutely do that. If there are things that you want to delegate and say, you know what, we're busy, we delegate this to the chair. Tamara's fully on board with that as well. We talked about this prior to the retreat. But if you want us to do one or the other, please let us know. We're happy to serve in whatever way you'd like us to in that regard. So we understand that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of that new member recruitment, recruiting for a co-chair to serve with Tamara, looking at the structure of the committees, the work groups, and who's serving on what. And we have a whole spreadsheet already outlined to help you do just that. But we understand there's a lot of work that needs to be done. In some ways, it needs to be sequenced. So we can't necessarily do everything all at the same time, but really strive to meet your expectations, to exceed your expectations, and your feedback helps us to do just that. So I do want to stop talking and listen, and continue to listen throughout this planning session and beyond. So the floor is yours. Any feedback, questions, comments that you might like to share?
Tamara, would you, do you have any follow-up from that, or anybody else from MAG, either from last week or the next steps?
My only follow-up is that I really can't wait to get the new board members on, and also to have a co-chair support this work, because this has been a lot. So I echo everything that Amy said, and we're all trying to do our best. And so hopefully we can all come together and come up with a plan going forward that's going to be more transparent and more involved and inclusive with everybody. And so I'm open to any feedback, and always trying to learn and improve, right?
This is Jackie. I really appreciate the direction that we're going in. I'm re-energized, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie.
Any other thoughts before we move into mission from you all, from the board? Anything from last week? Any ahas or takeaways? All right.
Oh, Ryan, were you wanting to jump in?
I was just also going to say thank you. And I feel like we have a clean slate and we can move forward.
Excellent.
Lots of happy faces, and I feel the same way.
Excellent. We share that same enthusiasm. We're eager.
Thank you for hearing us.
Oh, thank you for talking with us. We really appreciate your commitment to it.
Okay, so just a couple things before we go to the mission. I want to emphasize some things from last week, and at least it seems thematically that I want us to sort of say, yes, we said this, or that this is summarized correctly. That I would reflect hearing from you all last week that you all want change, that there's a desire to sort of disconnect from maybe what's happened in the past, but try to set a new course, or a foundation for how this board operates going forward. I think heard from a number of people that there is a interest in being more strategic, more policy oriented. And, like we talked about last week, that's a nice buzzword and used often. I think today's exercise might help us a little bit more, get some more meat on what that means. But clearly folks wanted to get this group moving more strategically, more higher level, more policy oriented, maybe than tactical or operational. We want to look forward. I heard that. How can the board become more impactful to our community? I mean, we heard, that from several people. Is at the end of the day, we want to make an impact, and how can we better structure, better position us to do that? And we also heard, and this will probably come out, and we can talk about this a little later on, that there may be opportunities for clarification on roles and responsibilities. I think Amy addressed that to some extent as she talked about some of the action steps and next steps that we're going to do, but that we're going to work on that piece to ensure that there's not confusion. It's the worst thing in the most, I think, paralyzing force in a lot of organizations or boards is when roles and responsibilities aren't well understood. And I think that stymies probably people to make decisions and know how to contribute. And it's not very motivating. So I think this group has recognized that and wants to do something about it. So those were some of the things. I don't know if anyone agrees, disagrees, you'd want to add to it. Did we hear you correctly? And that those were some of the themes that we heard collectively from the feedback that we got last week. And it looks to me like all 16 people still have their thing on mute. So that either means they don't want to talk or, okay, they agree. I'll take nobody off of mute means you agree. Is that right, Eric? Eric, you took yours off.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say at this point, 2 o'clock, 2:17 on a Friday afternoon, I think you got covered most of it. Although I may think of something else as we go. Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's talk about mission. All right, so we had sent you out the mission, you've read it. What we would like to do is really work on that together. And we're going to kind of have a white sheet of paper for us to, for each of you, and I'm going to encourage each of you to actually participate. What we're going to do is we're going to get mural up, and Sarah, you're going to show it, right? Thank you. It's an interesting tool and technique, I think, to try to use and to create the experience that we're actually together in the room. I love whiteboards. I love flip charts. This kind of replicates that. So we sent you the link. We'd asked you to go in on that link. And what that will allow you to do is actually participate and put sticky notes on our mural. And here's what we would like to do. We'd like to take 5, 7, 8 minutes for everybody to get on the mural, and you double click and you'll create a sticky note that everybody can see. And what we would like you to do is begin to write down phrases, words that you believe represents the mission, or you would like to be the mission of this board. And I would ask that you actually write it with a verb starting it, only because it makes it more actionable. Verbs make those statements more powerful. And so that's a good way to start as you build a mission, is to use verbs. So everyone would write 1, 2, 3, how many sticky notes you want to write in the time frame that we all set aside to do. You'd write and begin to phrase what you think the mission of the COC is. We'll take, like I said, 5 to 7 minutes. We'll have a little bit of quiet time for us all to work on that. We'll come back together, and then let's walk through each of the sticky notes, because my guess is you'll write phrases and it will need some more color. And we really want to hear sort of what's the heart and the thinking behind maybe the phrase that you've put down. Sarah's going to help us kind of frame common ideas and group them together. If you've ever been on, and done this in a real room with flip charts, I'm sure you all have. You may create one flip chart that has a common term, and then all of those sticky notes kind of fall under it. So we're going to try to group where we can. And while we're not going to try to wordsmith today, we're going to try to get a pretty robust set of statements or ideas that would represent our mission. But and we sent you out the one, in my mind, that you had before, sort of as background. Maybe that fits, maybe it doesn't. I think we would like to maybe have the freedom to look at that fresh with a white sheet of paper. Just a point about mission. Mission should give us purpose, just to kind of level set, because I know that may be a term that's often used as well. But in the way I think we're trying to look at mission is it gives us purpose. It gives us sort of the anchor. It tells us why we exist. How do we add value? What are we doing to solve the problem that's at hand? That kind of crystallizes what the mission should answer. It ought to be, achievable. It ought to be impactful. It ought to be inspiring. It ought to be simple. It ought to be understandable. It ought to have a number of things to it at the end of the day. But that should be what we're striving for in this little exercise we're going to go through. All right, Sarah, you're on mute. I'm going to ask you to come off mute. What did I not say about how to do this exercise that can be helpful?
Yes, you covered it. We're all anonymous on there. So if you want to change your name, you absolutely can, but you'll be presenting your ideas anyway, so that doesn't matter. Yes, you absolutely covered it. Feel free to pick your own color that inspires you. You don't have to go with the classic yellow. So you can choose your color schemes.
Hey, Sarah and Jim, can you please go over again how to type in to the sticky notes? So how to type on the board?
Yep, so you just go into the board and then you just double click a space like this. So you just double click, and then from there you can just write anything that you want. Just double click the space, yep. And then from there you can choose a color. I'm more of a purple girl myself. You go there, you can even get your text going like that. So just a real quick double click and that's it.
Okay, let me ask, anybody having difficulty in accessing, or anybody needs some help in accessing the mural?
Right, so Jackie does. I think you need to click on the link first that's in the chat, and that'll take you to a separate website, and then you click on the board from there. If you're trying to click right on this board, you can't because it's Sarah's screen.
Exactly, yes.
Absolutely, yes. So everyone click on that link that I sent there, and then you don't need to set up an account. It will just say you can leave your name anonymous. I think you might have to include your email address at the very least, and then it will bring you right in.
The link that you have, Sarah, is for a visitor, so you can or can't put your name in, and you just click on being a visitor, and it'll let you in.
Yes, and I see, Marshall, the link that I have in the chat here, that's the one that you can use. That will send you right through without having to create an account. I can repost the link too. This here. Yep, absolutely. Here's my link. Here it is again for folks. Oh, in case you need. Anybody else have any questions or need help? It can be a little confusing at first, that's for sure. Jackie, are you in okay?
Is anybody having difficulty getting in?
I think so. Jackie, you're on mute if you're trying to talk to us.
Right, I'm having trouble. It told me to go to my inbox. Sorry to be so stupid.
No, it's not at all. There's so many different platforms and bells and whistles and everything. It can be confusing.
So it did the same for me when I clicked on the link the first time. And when I clicked on it the second time, then it allowed me to go in as a visitor. But the first time it took me to some site where it said, register your email. And then it sent me an email to say, create a password.
Okay.
Oh, Sorry
Brandon,
about that.
Brandon, I just clicked on the link and it's saying to sign in. So I can see where people are having difficulty.
I'm in now though, thank you.
Okay.
Sarah and Jim, I wonder if people are having trouble getting in, if they can, verbalize what they would like to be on the sticky note. And then maybe Sarah, since you're sharing the screen, you could add that.
You could also enter it into chat. So
Or
if you
chat.
enter it into chat, then Sarah could copy and paste and put it onto a sticky note for you.
Yep.
Okay.
Great suggestion.
Absolutely. Just let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of let folks think and chat either in the chat if you have ideas, or actually if you hopefully can get on, make your own sticky notes. We'll here take maybe 5-7 minutes. When I don't see a lot of new stickies showing up. I mean, if you've brainstormed before, this is kind of a brainstorming exercise where all ideas are good. And the more ideas usually that we can get, the better the outcome. So just keep those ideas flowing, and we'll get back here in a little bit.
Jim, it's Marshall, and I apologize. As you were giving us what you want us to sticky note, I was trying to figure out how to get myself logged in. So can you just please restate for me? I apologize. Specifically, what we need to be thinking about.
I second that request.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you. That I should repeat it. It's probably good to do anyway. We're trying to write or put down what we think the mission of the COC should be. Why? And I had given some answer to some questions like, why do we exist? What is our purpose? How do we add value to the problem at hand? And I had suggested trying to write it with a verb at the start of the statement or the start of the answering to that question. And then you're putting up sticky notes for as many ideas as you have of what the board should be doing or the mission of the board. And then we're going to come back together and kind of debrief and listen to your thinking, because my guess is you'll have some more color to it. So, and then we're going to give you like 5 to 7 minutes to sort of to brainstorm on as many ideas for the mission as possible. Does that help? Okay. Let me give you a couple more minutes and then we'll get back together.
Kind of fun doing this and reading everybody's thoughts.
Isn't it?
Okay, I think we're sort of slowing down a little bit. Maybe a few others, please continue if you've got some ideas you still want to add. What a great looking board, and the colors look so good and all those ideas. I like that. Okay, so could we just go around and just give us your minute, kind of summary of what you put, maybe why, and we'll just kind of hear from everybody. And maybe as we're hearing, if there's anything that you want to clarify, what someone said, or what do you mean by that term, please, weigh in on that. But I think it would be great to hear from each one and your thinking about the mission of the COC. So who would like to start?
I can start, I don't mind.
Thank you, Tamara.
So I put two on here. One was, I think the board is the planning body on reducing and ending homelessness. Sounds obvious. And then also the board has compliance responsibilities, but should be driving the plan and measuring success / opportunities for improvement.
And Tamara, when you say measuring success, what could you describe what that is? What is success?
Well, I think that would depend on what everyone's definition would be. So some people's definition might be meeting HUD compliance criteria, which would be, attempting to reduce chronic homelessness each year. But for me, success would be reaching an end, a functional end. So either effectively ending or reaching the Built for Zero functional zero movement. Definition, that would be success for me, but definitely at least achieving reductions and knowing like how many people are getting housing placements, how many people are moving throughout the system, how many people are self-resolving, having a real clear picture of what's happening in our system, and then making plans around that to achieve some reductions.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Any comments, questions for Tamara? Great start. But by the way, Sarah, do you see those stickies when she, you can find them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
This is awesome.
Well, I see a lot of things moving around.
Sorry, I'm trying to organize them at the same time. So sorry.
No, thank you for doing that. Yeah. Okay, who's next?
I'll go. This is Joan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
So mine, I chose purple. I wonder why, right? This week, lots of purple. Lots of great purple. Okay, I chose, or I put resource and strengthen the Maricopa, and I almost put county, but I took county away. So the Maricopa regional response to ending homelessness through bold leadership. And what I mean by that, bold leadership is obviously all the voices here, but also we need to be innovative and be the thought leaders in this response, And then I also put an informed, well, you moved it, Sarah. I think it says informed planning. And that's okay, Sarah. What I mean by that informed planning is obviously data driven, but also inclusive of the folks with that lived experience.
I love your term bold, by the way. Just that, it just resonated. I mean, if you're looking for something that's inspiring, I like that term. Okay. Next.
It's Marshall. Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
Please, Marshall, go ahead.
So, okay, sure. So, one, I like the sticky thing. That's really cool. Now I'm trying to remember all the stickies and what I wrote. So, just because I just started typing in the stickies, I'm really sprung on this whole sticky thing. We got to figure out how we use this at the City of Phoenix. But in any event, my themes for my couple of stickies I put up there really centered around the continuum of care. Part of our mission, and I know how it fits, is really being seen as the body that provides the regional perspective on the spectrum of homelessness issues. So we are really, the entity is seen as, this is the place, if you will, when you're wanting to know facts or data or perspectives on issues surrounding homelessness. You know, as an example, the Continuum of Care Board can be a repository or a place, or that's where you can seek that kind of information. You know, a convening body to create, you know, systems that host fact-based information, that as folks talk about homelessness and what it is or isn't, we somewhat can become kind of a fact-based location or site or convener, if you will, of information versus what happens is a lot of different folks start talking about homelessness, and it may or may not align with what are best practices or what's going on out there. And then the final thing is really, and I don't know if any of this is around mission and moving forward, but I think about it from this context when the business community or the educational community or the faith-based community or whatever community you talk about is wanting a place to understand, engage, talk about homelessness from the regional approach within Maricopa, that CFC, the board, the entity itself is seen as the place where folks can come for that. So you don't have a lot of, you try and minimize people trying to figure out where you can go. So those are my couple of comments.
That's good. Okay. Sarah, just as you, one of the things we're trying to do is sort of group these ideas together. You know, pipe in here if you're trying to group and need to clarify.
Yeah, it really seems like there's kind of a systems and innovation piece towards the right of my screen. I'm noticing a lot of like, you know, creation, you know, develop those sorts of things. So yeah, just we can keep going. This is right.
So that's helpful. So as you're grouping them, that will help us, you know, kind of put a summary together around it as we start getting buckets of ideas where we see consistency or common themes or similarities. Okay, great. By the way, I mean, these terms can be so powerful. I like the idea of the COC as a place. The whole idea that, you know, Marcel, what you said is you know, it's the place that people go to. Yeah. Anyway, who's next? Jackie?
Yeah, I'll go. I really had a lot of similar things to my colleagues here who have gone before, to implement strategies to end family homelessness in our region, to model our best practices for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things that I wish we could do as a board is tie into some of the AZ Housing Coalition's advocacy efforts and weigh in to say, yes, supporting the State Housing Trust Fund is important because we, the Continuum of Care Board, believe it is. And I know we choose advocating on legislative issues because of MAG's limitations, but if we could find a way to work around that and become stronger as a board. And that way I would love that.
Okay.
Strive to become the recognized expert in our region on homelessness. I think this is more of a process thing, but I think we could do a better job soliciting feedback from individuals with lived experience. Those were pretty much the main ones I had.
Okay, excellent. Okay, keep going.
I can go.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, mine are pretty similar. I did I kind of used the existing mission as what I reacted off of. So co-create community goals is one of mine. The reason I said that is in our current one, we talk about promote community-wide goals to end homelessness. And to me, that means the goals have already been created by somebody else, and I'm not sure who else that is. I think it's us. And co-create to me just means it's not just us as an entity, but it's our power of aligning and bringing the stakeholders to the table. Kind of along the lines of and then also along those lines, I have this little one down here that says set the pace for progress. I often feel like we're driven by, HUD deadlines or funding deadlines. And then, we kind of get into our own series of meetings, and this happens everywhere. Going along with the bold statement is I think we also can set the expectation level of and the pace for how fast things happen. We are in probably a better position than anybody to set some of those goals and deadlines to move us along. Promote best practices, that we've already talked about that. Align efforts. So in addition to aligning and making the plan, I think we have a role, or the board and the staff have a role in just kind of keeping the system aligned, keeping people working together by, through awareness and training, et cetera. I think I have one more. And I could do two more, sorry. I really like in our statement, in our current one, we've got a great bullet point about the data collection piece, and to emphasize what my colleague said about a location or a clearinghouse. I think we have to be the ones that ensure that our data collection is excellent and that there's analysis happening in the data. It doesn't mean we have to do all of that. And then we use that to make data-driven and outcomes-focused decisions and recommendations. And then we also have done, if that works, then others can use that data and those recommendations to make their own decisions as well. I think that's it.
Eric, just maybe a clarification. When you talk about data, would that be sort of, do you think that's a repository of trusted data? Is that?
That's a good way to say it. And I think certainly our HMIS system is part of that, but there are other, the by name lists. I mean, there are other elements of data that, we collect now. And I think the thing about, with me, I say, just collecting or repositing data is great, but the real power comes from analyzing it and then using it to make decisions.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right.
I'm happy to share.
Thank you.
If I can find them, I wasn't smart enough to use one color. So
Next time.
see, I think let me find my, okay.
I'm going them all around, sorry.
Here, a leadership group that can bring other partners to the table and resources to bear to pilot innovations and track success. I probably should have read my first one first, which was a regional body or place. I had originally used the word place, so I snuck it back in there because I really like the idea of place too, like a home base, a main place where challenges can be discussed and solutions can be innovated. Yes. And that led me then to my next thought, which was this one about being a leadership group, that once we are discussing challenges and discussing the possibilities of innovative solutions, then as leaders or representatives of our community, how do we reach out and bring other partners in that we need for those things and bring resources to bear to actually innovate? Because we know we can't do it all ourselves. And even in that solution brainstorming phase, we would probably identify, hey, who else do we need to bring to the table for this? Or maybe our audience would come to us and say, hey, we're hearing what you're discussing. Let us add this thought or this resource to it. So I want to be that place that can reach out and accept in. And then I had 2 other comments. Let me see if I can find them. This bright pink one, being truly representative of everyone who puts their hearts and souls into this work, from providers to funders to decision makers, to people with lived experience. I'm just often so aware that we're just such a few people, but there's people doing this work every day, night and day. No one's day starts or ends from 8 to 5 in this business. And how are we making sure that the things that we're saying and thinking and doing are really how are we making sure that we know how our decisions are affecting people who are implementing on the ground? Where is our feedback loop for that? And really, really hearing from them and allowing them to help us change course as needed. And my last one was fun. Travel to see what others are doing and what's working. There's so many, back in the day, and when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, I feel like when I started this work, either we just didn't know it because social media wasn't what it is now, or I don't know, maybe I just didn't know as much, but there's so many people doing so many things now. It seems like we should look outside ourselves. Before it just seemed like, I don't know, I'm sure there was as many people doing things back in the day too, but there's so much going on in this arena now. So I want to make sure that we don't just get stuck in our own thoughts as a community and how we've done things, and let's go looking for what's innovative out there and seeing what pieces make sense to incorporate in our community. And I mean, let's copy others who have figured things out, and bring new ideas back to our community. I think that was it.
Good stuff. Another word that sort of resonated is you said, Rianne, just a listening group. The whole idea of making sure we listen well. And you had a lot of nuances to that, by the way.
Or a feedback loop of some kind. How are we doing that?
Okay. How are we doing, Sarah? Just to break with you. Are you?
Looks great. Yeah, we can keep going if you'd like. It seems the main groups I'm finding is mission around funding. Then there's the wanting to be the main planning body. And there's a lot of cool stuff about data driven. There's an advocacy piece. And then there's a huge piece, most popular, around innovation. Just it's going really great. We can keep going.
Okay, so let's hear from the rest of the members on the board, and then we'll take a break. And during that break, if you don't mind sort of helping us, making sure that we have them grouped, and then we come back from the break, I'll ask you, Sarah, if you could kind of summarize, and we could start kind of narrowing in on maybe the buckets or the terms we might want to use as far as the mission is concerned.
Great.
Okay, who else?
This is Liz. I'll go next. I just did the 2, so it's really around the resources we currently have. So develop strategies to improve our system performance measures. Just really looking a lot closer at our system performance measures, and for 2 reasons. One, of course, we can improve our score and overall application as a community. But then also with the system performance measures that are in there, the outcomes that we can achieve at the human experience level will impact the experience for those that are in need. So it's really around the measures of length and time a person remains homeless, right? So can the board understand what our shelter capacity is, how we really rally around increasing shelter capacity so folks are not residing on our streets and instead they're in shelter, connected to services, and more quickly accessing permanent solutions. The extent to which individuals who are in our housing programs remain housed and keep retention there, right? So essentially just looking more at the system performance measures through both of those lenses. And then the other is really along the lines of what Ryan shared on. So it's the resources that are still available. So my other one is coordinate efforts to end homelessness across sectors. And it really, you know, we have such a good group of people at really high levels who I think can bring a lot of, you know, connections. Everyone talked about innovation into the board, thinking about what solutions we need and how we really go rally behind creating new relationships and bringing new resources into what the board is working on and into the goal of ending homelessness.
Excellent. Liz, does that, when you talked about capacity, and is it a scorecard? Are there performance indicators that you would say should this group be responsible to achieve or measured against?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm sure Amy and Mag can talk to it very eloquently, but we have system performance measures that we are responsible for, and it all ties back to our homeless management information system, the data that's being put in there by every single emergency shelter, street outreach program.
Okay.
And so it's really just looking more closely at those and how we can improve strategies to, I think, you know, like I said, score better, but then also improve the system.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Who haven't we heard from?
This is Charles.
Oh, hi, Charles. Thank you.
So I also put a note under data-driven decisions. I'm not sure what much else to say there other than we need to have a plan for data itself and making sure that we have you know, all that we need to continue to make the best decisions. We have the data that HUD makes us collect. We have the reports that HUD makes us send to them, and those are certainly good data points, and they can help drive the cause. But I think that we should be working together to come up with our own data points that help us end homelessness in our community, and really having a plan around what that needs to be to best help us make decisions. I also had trying to find mine also, just like everybody else, but I had one about being a place to an environment for collective problem solving and ending homelessness. That blue one right there. Just, you know, that we're coming together and working as a board to problem solve together and come up with new solutions. You know, we're often just reacting to issues that come up, and not everybody, but sometimes we're responding on our own and not really coming together to solve the problems as they come to us as a community. I am the only one in the funding area up there. But I do think it's important that we look at ways to try and bring funding to ending homelessness, not necessarily that we as a board would be the group that would administer that funding, or MAG be the group that administers that funding, but we really don't have enough money in the community from HUD to end homelessness. And if you look at other continuums of comparable size, you know, we're not getting enough from HUD, and we need to find a way to drive our local resources towards ending homelessness. I think I had one more, but I can't remember where it is. So I'll let the next person go.
Sorry, Charles. I'll find a more efficient way to organize them next time we do this, so I don't lose it for everybody. Sorry.
I think in the beauty of all the colors, you get, yeah, colors look great. Charles, I like your idea of thinking about, data. We've heard that from a number of folks, but there needs to be a plan to get good data, right? Data just doesn't happen. So that being, an intended really important mission, particularly if you want to be a trusted resource. I like the idea of what you said with that. Yeah, and funding. Yeah, I mean, we probably need to talk a little bit more about that together if that's really a mission of this group and we want to make it that way. Okay, who else? Samantha, I think are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay, thank you.
So I wrote a couple of them, but I think I tried to pull my ideas together in this one, and my own like written Post-it notes. So I really see the.
You can stick them on your computer, by the way, if you'd like.
So I'm thinking that the COC is like a high level view, or we have a high level view of the system. Like we know where homelessness starts and we know how it ends. And we know where there are gaps in resources to end someone's homelessness. And so how can we begin to advocate for more resources, if that's more shelter, if that's more permanent supportive housing, and I think part of that is convening different voices, building partnerships with other systems, if that's partnerships with education, with the court system, with, anything. So, kind of convening these different voices, finding places to pilot innovation. And then I think my biggest one, and it's sort of, it's like this thing that I have personally. I feel like I go to a lot of webinars and conferences and I see programs that other people are doing. And I'm like, oh, but we're already doing that. But nobody looks to Phoenix, like we're not a leader, in any way. Well, I don't want to say in any way, like not at all, but I really want to elevate kind of our region and the greater Phoenix area for the work that we're doing, because I think we have been leaders, but we've been overlooked. And I think there's an opportunity here before the housing gets like crazy out of control and we're in the same boat as, Seattle, Denver, Austin, some of these places that, I've really seen that uptick happen in housing. We're right in the middle of it. And so how do we get innovative now and show that we were, we built smartly as a region.
Okay. So mission would be to be a national leader, Samantha. Does that sort of fit?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Good. So help me. Have we missed anybody that?
I think that is everybody.
Got everybody? Anybody, now that you've gone through, anybody that didn't get to add something or you feel like has not been stated either in a sticky or as you listen to anybody, is there anything that triggered to add to our discussion about this board?
I noticed that I missed one of my stickies, which was just be a sounding board. People shouldn't be afraid to come to us. They should expect that we will listen and respond. I think that just speaks to something we discussed at the very beginning of this meeting, which was just creating that place where we have an open door to everyone, and they shouldn't feel like we're going to think their program is bad or their agency is suffering or something like that, to come express, or that will be, been out of shape, to come express that something's not working and they want to take a look at it.
Yeah, it needs to be a safe, right? People need to feel safe here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also had one I forgot, and it's along the same lines: create and maintain collaborative, transparent culture. Fun fact that the culture point is made in the existing bylaws, which is really great. Existing, mission statement and principles, which is really great, I think.
So Eric, can I just ask, because maybe I'm the only one. I don't know what transparent culture means for this group. What does that mean?
I kind of threw that part in there. It's kind of it's kind of along the lines of what Ryan said, which is like, part of safety and trust is knowing the guardrails and knowing how things are decided and, how the system operates. So the more we're transparent, and I think that it just creates you kind of want agencies. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be competition. Yeah, there's always, concern about funding and that sort of thing. I think we want to create a culture that's both collaborative but transparent. That's just my thinking.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, any other clarifications, added points, anything that we've missed? Okay, that is some list. What I'd like to suggest, what time is it? See. Okay, so it's 3:02. Can we take 5 minutes, give you all a stretch break? It's Friday afternoon, get something to drink, whatever you want to do. Eliminate Zoom fatigue, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. And then Sarah, can I ask, and I can stay on if it would be helpful, that when we come back, we try to group them and try to put some things together, look for themes, look for maybe even some words that we think need to be a part of this mission. And then just so you all know where we're going, I'll emphasize again, we're not going to try to wordsmith it. What I would like to ask is that we take a subgroup or some MAG folks, or that we sort of work on something and then come back to the board. Not that we're trying to take that. It's just wordsmithing mission statements is a hard thing to do as a group. And it's much easier if you sort of have a starting point. So that's kind of where I'm going to suggest potentially we go, if that's okay with this group. MAG, anybody from MAG want to add anything to that, or Tamara? We'll make sure you're comfortable with that.
Hey, Jim, thanks. I love this exercise. Sarah, great job with this. I really appreciate all of the board members being able to contribute in such a really positive way. In terms of the smaller subset, I would really love to see that be driven by the board. MAG staff is here to support you, and we're happy to do so in any way, but I really want this to be driven by the board and have the board really help craft what that mission statement looks like.
Okay, great. All right, well, Tamara, if it's okay, we'll take 5 minutes. You good? We'll go back to the chairman. Okay, let's take 5 minutes. We'll come back and then we'll have Sarah help us kind of do a little readout for us.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And Sarah, I'm going to stay here. How you feeling? How's it look? It's a little bit harder because it's so small, and I must need like new glasses.
So we're looking, our main themes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. So it really looks like our main themes are innovation, kind of out of the box, a lot what folks said, kind of looking in other communities and seeing how we can be, a little more innovative with some of the things. So, some of those words are, implementing strategies that will push things, as innovative tactics. Then there's this kind of smaller advocacy piece here towards the bottom right that you see. It's not only like listening to folks and really knowing what they're feeling, but also having not only being the sounding board, but also utilizing the great power of AZ Housing Coalition to kind of push some of those things.
Hey Sarah, can I jump in on that point?
Yeah.
No, and we definitely have two very specifically around advocacy. The other one's in there, and so when I think of advocacy, I think of talking, but there's a lot of, but there's a few in there that at least to me sound more like listening. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure if that's a separate category or a reframing or what that is, but just that sense of listening, that dialogue, and particularly being able to listen and reflect the needs and the priorities of the region. So I don't know if that's like so getting back to the comments about place, I love that. And so I don't know if this is a place for listening, a place for collaboration, a place to reflect the needs and the characteristics of the community. Just, I think the place and listening were just really important themes.
Yeah, and maybe that's enough difference. I mean, the reason I like place, honestly, what I was going to suggest later is because to me, you could also say home, right? This is a group, right? We're about homelessness, but the whole idea of what home represents for this team, I think might be kind of cool.
Oh, Jim, that'd be so cool. Like a home for data-driven decisions, innovation, championing. Yeah, I love that though. A home, a place. That sounds really good. I'm gonna grab some water and I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay.
There's just a ton of overlapping themes, you know, a lot of agreement here. Where it was hard because there were some things that kind of fit with one but fit in the other. So I think once I actually have time to kind of look at this and dissect it, I can make it look really cool. And have more understanding.
Yeah, I think to Amy's point, that once the board just sort of take this back, this will be a great, if the board is going to sort of take this and try to create something, they'll take your document and they'll have a great start to actually putting what it is that they want to put on a piece of paper.
Yes, and we can continue to work off of this link, which is cool. So folks can keep using this exact same link and go into the same thing if they'd like to.
Okay.
To help with the grouping, I see that you added the listening box. I think that's great. I would suggest moving the include feedback from folks with lived experience, maybe move that one over to listening. And then,
oh, sorry.
It's yellow. It's under advocacy right now, right? Okay. That one. And then to be representative of everyone who puts their hearts and soul. That seems to be listening as well.
That's great. And everybody, just so you know, you can get in here too and move these.
Oh, I can. Okay. I'm in it right now. I didn't want to mess with your grouping. So, okay.
Oh, no. The help is much appreciated.
Okay. Thank you. I'll look at it as well and see.
Thank you.
Even create an environment for collective problem solving. I kind of see that under the listening as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And are there any other sort of titles you think? Because listening and advocacy, they're sort of cousins.
Yeah. So is that kind of, so what just struck me is it listening and then giving voice. You know what I mean? So they seem kind of connected in that sense. You know, that we listen and then we speak up for others. You know, so it's connected.
And then we've got this planning body section up here, just wanting to be like the main voice is a common theme up here.
And then you got data and then funding. Is that the other two? And are there any that don't have a home that you're wrestling with? Where would they fit? I know it's gray even on some of the ones that you've chosen what bucket, but are there any you're just like stuck on?
There's some that are sort of a lot of things, like this board has compliance responsibilities, but should also be driving the plan and measuring success opportunities for improvement. So I can see that as the data stuff, but also as, you know, the planning body. So it's sort of kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I was thinking planning body because driving the plan.
Do you see striving to become recognized as regional experts? Would you see that under innovation?
That's a good thought, Brandy.
I think that's the planning body thing again. Just sort of that main voice.
Is it planning body? Is it leader? Just I'm wondering if we should be saying leader maybe instead of planning body.
Much more powerful, by the way.
Right. I see leader in noted in several sticky notes. So I think that's a good call.
Okay.
Leader. And I see this is sort of like a co-create goals section, which could cover a lot.
Well, if we change planning body to leader, so providing that leadership for the region. So to be a leader, to innovate, drive with data, listen, give voice.
In co-creation, maybe they mean by the regional collaborative in the board.
So collaborate, right? This is so cool.
Isn't it cool? I'll try to get better at this so I make it look prettier when it.
You rock already, Sarah. This is great. Good job.
I'll have everybody select their own color. That way it's easy for them to find.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning, right? There's some learnings, but overall, excellent job. Because
Agreed.
By the way, we put you on the spot to try to do this, so yeah.
Happy to do it.
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so
feel free to jump in and organize. You know, anybody can move things if you'd like. If you see something that just kind of stands out, please throw it someplace else if you prefer, or I can. Sorry,
right.
Jim, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I'm going to call everybody back and then have you kind of walk through. And then, you know, just again, you continue to digest this. Are there other reflections the board may have that says what might fit, what doesn't fit, or how that might be phrased, or it kind of, and then we'll talk about where we go from here. So is that all right, Sarah, to turn that over to you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So since the board's probably already hearing me, welcome back. Oh, I need a little like jingle music. Thanks for joining us back again. What we want to do is have, we've been playing around in case you were watching or you disconnected with us for a little bit. We were playing around how to group these. So where are the similarity themes, ideas, and terms that we can use to try to talk about the mission and what the purpose is of the COC. And Sarah's done a great job of trying to put it together. Ready to go, Sarah? I love what is that? Rain? What is that?
Celebration.
No, okay. Oh, it's confetti. Confetti. All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you for doing that. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you to kind of walk us through the various buckets, and then board members, I would ask for you to say, you know, be good listeners, have we listened and are we putting these in the right places? Do you have more color? In particular, are there some powerful terms that you think need to be represented as in some of these buckets that represent what the COC is to do?
Lovely. So you can see here sort of this pinkish red color. These are our themes, and it appears that our major themes, I'll read them over first before kind of diving in, is you know, focusing the mission around funding efforts, also making data-driven decisions, also seeking to be, you know, the leadership for the region around homelessness. There's both a listening piece, you know, really being good listeners for those experiencing homelessness, what their needs are. And then there's this advocacy voice piece. There's also this co-creation of goals, and we can dig into that a bit more. And then there's also this innovation piece, really looking outside the box. So kind of to hone in first on this innovation piece, some of the big things, and MAG staff, feel free to jump in too if I haven't covered it all. Is, you know, around innovation, it's really about like building and creating, and some of the things that folks mentioned is, you know, looking at other communities around the nation and striving to be the best. As Samantha said, you know, we are doing amazing things and we really are the leaders, but it would be nice to be seen that way. You know, Ryan mentioned having fun, you know, seeing, of course, what other folks are doing and seeing if we can't implement that. So that's sort of the innovations piece, is strengthening current resources and systems that we have, but with kind of a new, fresh approach. next, co-creating goals. And I kind of like to open it up for this part. My assumption is co-creating goals, not just with the regional collaborative, but also goals with other municipalities and best practices in that way. Is that so that could also be innovation in a way. Then there's these two pieces towards the bottom, the listening and the advocacy piece. The listening is, of course, to be a sounding board so that we are a safe place for folks to vocalize what's really going on. And, creating systems that really host that sort of idea, this place, as some have said, a safe sounding board place where we can truly be representatives of this is beautiful, be truly representative of everyone who puts their hearts and souls into this work, for providers to funders. So not just folks experiencing homelessness, but to be the sounding board and the safe place for anyone and everyone, whether you're a funder, people who really care about this work. That lovely. And then of course, what do we do with that information piece, the advocacy, the voice piece, using the awesome AZ Housing Coalition, utilizing the awesomeness of the AZ Housing Coalition to advocate for issues that maybe we as a COC can't necessarily do as strongly. There's also the advocate for greater funding, federal, municipal, and private. So there's an advocacy and then a funding piece. Those kind of go hand in hand. Okay. And then there's the leadership for the region part. Some of the key words that we're seeing here is to be sort of the main convener, the main body to implement strategies to address homelessness around the region. Yes, there's a lot around like, to be recognized as the leaders around homelessness, the experts, the main planning body is sort of that leadership for the region part here. Then there's sort of some in between. Board has compliance responsibilities, but also should be driving the plan to measure the success. So yes, HUD compliance, but also the main driver of homelessness is what I'm really seeing here. Also that whole creating a safe environment, to collect the problems and advocate out, that's sort of in between. And then there's a huge part on data-driven decisions around, coordinating efforts and, ensuring the excellence in data collection and not only to make data-driven decisions, but really look at outcomes around those focused decisions. Other things around the data. It's all about like change and improvement. That's very innovation, but data as well. And then last, we mentioned the funding. We've got the HUD funding, but then there's also a need in the mission, it seems, for alternative funding, flexible funding for those bits that are not just HUD, focused and mandated. Did I leave anything out at all, or am I missing anything?
Great question to everybody. Yeah.
This was a great exercise. It's really wonderful and heartwarming to see everyone using this. I hope we can use this for future meetings. Go ahead and take it away, Jim.
No, I was saying, what is there, how did we group them? Is there anything that sort of, now that you see all of this, we're missing? And I've got some questions I want the board sort of reflect on now what you've seen. But let me ask that first. Okay, so then I'm going to play a little bit of a little devil's advocate a little bit. This is this is a lot. I mean, so the question I think is this too much? And is this, can we do all of this? Is this board capable, empowered, accountable? Can it do all that you've written down here?
Well, I think some of it would probably be done on the committee level and that the board would oversee and guide, but the work itself, like we have a data subcommittee, we could have priorities for the data subcommittee. And I forgot what other ones are on here, but we could probably, you know, our COC committee could probably take on some of this stuff and really do some work on it. So it would really be us leading it and clearing the path for the work to be done. That's what I would think.
Okay. Any other thoughts to, you know, we can do it all. It's not too much.
And just to jump in, so Tamara, I think that's a really important point too, particularly if the board is looking at restructuring potentially roles and structure for the committee, the work groups, the subcommittees. And then one possible option for the board to consider would be kind of structuring the supportive groups to the board around the elements within the mission. And that could really help to clarify the purpose and provide some direction there.
Okay, any other thoughts on?
I had one, it's Eric. I had one other thought as I was working on talking about the planning aspect, but then in the leadership of the region piece, it comes up too. You know, our existing mission and focus all were before this very positive advent of the regional planning group came into existence. And maybe this isn't for today, but maybe it's for, you know, those of you that are a part of the regional planning leadership team to take back and discuss. You know, but I do think that, like, the role of that group and how it will, you know, develop and make this first initial plan work kind of informs what we are and how we do the, you know, play in that work going forward. I'm not sure I'm making sense, but I do just think there's probably some feedback from that group that might help us as well, because there's some overlap, you know.
Eric, just to clarify to make sure I understand, are you talking about the regional collaborative?
Yes.
Is that what you mean by that?
Sorry,
Okay.
yes, I got the name wrong.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I understood where you're coming from. No, and really, I mean, the sole goal of that group is to support your efforts and support and to help coordinate with other regional entities working in this space. So I think it'd be great for the board to be able to share with the other partners, the collaborative and beyond, what you need, you know, and how you'd like to be able to work with them. I think that kind of communication, that dialogue would be fantastic. And, you know, and with the role of the collaborative, with the strategies, you know, I was looking back at our notes from October, and we're talking about kind of a 3-step process where we'd have some initial strategies that are really kind of short-term, very action-oriented, but then still very much needing that longer-term regional plan to end homelessness. And then the third phase really is making sure that we've got the ongoing foundation and sustainability to keep all of this moving into the future, you know? And so none of that happens independently, you know? So to have that communication flow throughout the partners in the region, I think would be really powerful. But really the board is the kind of that place, going back to that sense of place where all of that comes together. And I think that'll be really important to look at moving forward.
That helps. That helps me a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.
So Eric, just to follow up on that, because you brought up this regional collaborative group, you don't see an overlap, you don't see confusion, I mean, of this mission versus the mission there?
I mean, I think the way Amy just described it helps me a great deal. And I think,
okay.
Yeah, I think when it first, you know, came to the board, it was I guess our role in it was not as clear. And I mean, I may be just, you know, thick and not figuring it out myself. There may not be others that have the same confusion, right?
I would not say you're thick, Eric, at all.
I mean, you know, just so. Okay.
No, just, I mean, I think the roles are clarifying, and I think the ongoing conversation really helps in that regard.
Gotcha. And I can imagine that our work here also helps with the other partners in the regional, kind of figuring, getting to the place where we all are picking up our work and going forward. Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect.
Okay, just some other, any other comments, but just some other questions, because when I've worked on missions before with organizations, at the end of their mission conversation, I always want to ask, is this unique? Is this mission that you're trying to draft, is it unique to this organization? We want to make sure that we are obviously solving problems that are important problems to solve, but we also want to make sure that we're tackling things that maybe nobody else is tackling and is unique. And so is this, in your mind, unique if this becomes what this group does? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at that. I think it becomes unique if we start framing our decisions about what is totally relevant to our region. There are other continuums of care that have been bold enough to make priorities outside of what HUD is suggesting the priority should be. And I think we have not had that courage to do that. And I understand the risks in that, but it's worked for other continuums. And that's where I think the uniqueness comes in.
Jackie, I like your word courage. I think that's a great word, by the way. So Jackie, so I understand you're saying that there are other boards, other places who have gone outside just the HUD requirements and have been very effective in doing so. And you said it takes courage to do so. What's the risk, by the way?
Well, it would be the award of funding is on the line. What I mean by that is there have been communities that for years, for decades, we've been prioritizing chronic singles as our majority funded program group, and that we're not really getting traction on that number. It's growing and growing exponentially. There are continuums that have said, look, we're going to target groups that we can really reach that functional zero point. Maybe it's elderly, maybe it's family, maybe it's youth. That's not to exclude, but to say, hey, our region's priorities might look a little different.
Okay.
I think it's worth exploring personally.
Okay. Anybody else? The thoughts about the uniqueness and the specialness of this mission that we're starting to coalesce around?
Yeah, I really like where this is going. I think it represents what I've been hearing and what we've all been saying really well. I am a little bit confused, and that's okay. I'm okay with being confused for now about if there's this other group of people. You asked about uniqueness. So if there's this other group that is creating a strategic plan, then where do we fit in terms of the things I'm seeing here around setting the pace, innovating, that kind of thing? So are they like, do they bring that forward and we say, yes, let's use these strengths that we have to move this forward? Or at some point, do we weigh in on that? Like, I'm still a little confused about the fit. I'm okay being confused because as long as I feel like I know what my role is, if I can define my role, that I can live with some confusion. But I'll just throw that out there that I still am a little confused about like where that would intersect.
Right.
Fair enough.
Jim, can I jump in?
Yeah.
And just know, thank you so much. I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's important, and I can understand where it's confusing, but you shouldn't have to be confused. So if I can help to hopefully clarify some of that. First, just to clarify, the collaborative isn't developing a strategic plan. We're developing some strategies that could be implemented now. Part of the board discussion on Monday will hopefully include how do we fully integrate the board members into those conversations, into the work, working, as partners with you hand in glove. And then all of that work is coming to the board for a vote. And it comes to you first before it goes to MAG Management Committee and Regional Council, because we're looking at really wanting to bring in a number of different partners, communities, but it's helping to do some of the legwork that you can consider then. So as the board is developing the region's plan to end homelessness, you might want to use some of the work that's being generated right now, and the work that's being generated right now, it'll be better, it'll be more holistic and informed if you're part of that conversation. So we really want to bring you fully into that and be able to leverage your expertise, your time, your talents in that. So then when those strategies come for your vote in May, well, actually your meeting comes first, so it's end of April, I believe. It's something that you've helped to co-create, and then if this legwork helps to give you kind of a jump start on developing that regional plan to end homelessness, because there's data and there's outreach and, and all of that. This isn't going to be this really comprehensive, very deep look into subpopulations and things like that. It's looking at what can we do right now, because communities need this help right now. And that being said, I think what really differentiates the two groups, one, the board is much more comprehensive. You've got communities at all levels. You've got the countywide, the individual cities, you've got the providers. Love to see other, and this is part of that new member recruitment in terms of bringing in the business community, bringing in schools, for example, bringing in faith leaders. It's what are the groups you think should be at the table? That doesn't exist anywhere else. And persons with lived experience and really bringing in that true voice, that gets back to the listening and being able to really be reflective of the community at large. That's the board. I don't see anyone else serving in that capacity. And I don't see anyone else being able to serve in that capacity. And so hopefully that clarifies things a little bit. But really-
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. And happy to-
I'm all for other people doing legwork, and the more the merrier.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Trying to understand,
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, we are the hands and the feet. The board is the head. So
okay,
the head, the heart.
That's helpful. Thank you.
No, you are welcome, and happy to continue that conversation. And we'll have hopefully more opportunities, particularly with the board meeting on Monday too. Thank you.
Okay, any other reflections on this uniqueness? I mean, I guess the other question, just before we sort of close, maybe on talking about and putting this together, is, ultimately, are you all excited about this and being a part of this and owning this and helping drive this and investing your own time and energy in all of this? I mean, that's the next question, and maybe that needs to be thought of a little bit. Maybe a couple of you have some ideas about this, but ultimately, when this is put down, board members need to be excited about they're going to invest themselves in doing this and delivering it. And if it's not that way, then it needs some more conversation or more tweaking. So any thoughts on that from anybody?
I'll just add the confetti going through the little thingy there was my thumbs up for, yeah, I'm excited. This is great stuff. Very, very, very excited.
Love it. Anyone else?
I would just, I would say I am very excited, and I'm also really encouraged from, and I get it now. Amy just really helped put it in perspective around the regional effort and getting all those voices to the table. I felt when being a part of the first meeting that group did, the broader meeting of CEOs and service providers, there's a real hunger and energy behind this, I think, not just with us, but in the community. And so I think if we get this, we get this right, and then also can, have that feedback loop going forward, I think we can maintain that energy. So I'm very excited.
That's great. Thank you, Eric. Anyone else? Okay.
Excited too. I was just going to go what everybody else said. I'm really excited too. I feel like we're finally getting somewhere with a plan. So that's really exciting for me.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we have a little dialogue, and maybe Tamara, you can help sort of kind of dictate this, or what you might think how we should progress with this. Amy had suggested the board take this, and maybe there's a subgroup of people potentially that works on this a little more, crystallizing it, digesting a little more, maybe even writing out some very active, clear, simple statements that summarize these buckets that we have, and then come back to the board. You have a thought of how that next step, or any suggestions on how that step might what it might look like?
Should we just take volunteers who would want to start to frame this? I can join the team.
There are volunteers. We'd be happy to help schedule a small group meeting, and we can get together and have a Word document up on the screen and kind of start to hammer out some of these details together. It's very helpful to get kind of the parameters to help shape that conversation from the full board. Thank you, Samantha. Love to have you involved as well.
I think Joan jumped off, but can we also just make sure to invite her? She might be really good to have on there with her statewide perspective, and she's also on that collaborative.
Thank you. And then we've got Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Perfect.
So that's Tamara, Samantha, Ryan, and then we'll check in with Joan as well. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Any other great wordsmithers that really love doing that? You need to be a part of this group.
We'll throw confetti and everything.
I'll join in. I don't love it, but I'm decent at it.
There's the confetti, did it? That pushed you right over the edge, Eric.
I just want as much confetti as I can get.
Thank you, Eric. So what it sounds like that group will do is with the help from MAG, meet offline, work on this a little bit more, and then come back to the board when they're ready to have something that they're really excited about presenting or letting the extended board sort of see. That sound like the right next steps? Okay.
That's good.
Cool.
I think on the agenda, just before I know it's getting 2:40 or 3:40. Okay, you wanted to talk about the board meeting, I think on Monday before we departed. Is that correct? Do I have Amy, Brandy, the MAG team, or Tamara?
Yes, there's a lot of work that's been done with the racial equity work group. We have a pretty final draft of the plan and the strategy. And Amy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to go through our committees and then back to the board, correct?
Right. So then we have the benefit of layering in additional support, voices, and then the recommendation for approval. So that'll go from the work group and then up to the committee and then up to the board for approval then. So that'll be coming towards you soon.
Maybe we can just email the board the draft plan so they can read through it and
absolutely
that. And then also board membership, should that be with the small group, or should that be something that we just hammer out on Monday?
We do have time on the agenda. I believe it's the first item to do kind of a debrief from these planning sessions and looking at some of the work to come after that. So some of the areas that I've heard, and please tell me if this is what you've said and what you're interested in. So we have the mission statement. So we'll have the subgroup on that, which is fantastic. We do have the new member recruitment, the search for a co-chair, the charter review, and then looking at the structure and the roles of the supportive groups to the board. So that would include the work groups, the subcommittees, the committee, particularly if we're thinking about the sequencing on this, if we want to make sure that we've got the mission statement confirmed maybe first. And then once we have the mission statement, that'll help us to identify what additional voices do we want to make sure are serving on the board. That will help with the member recruitment as well as the co-chair. So we can move on that as quickly as you want to. We can run tracks parallel too if there's an interest in moving on things together. So we can at least talk about the process for how we'll address all of those on Monday.
Okay.
And if we come to consensus and decide on certain points on Monday too, that's great. But if we want to talk about the parameters for how that work will unfold and then identify the process, then that process can continue after the board meeting too.
Are other board members okay with that? Yeah, okay. All right.
Tamara, can I ask, and what do you want to do next steps on this? You've spent 2 days, in this kind of retreat, like you've sort of talked about these high level strategy kinds of, how I know it was on our agenda to sort of ask about what happens next, or is there more of this activity of strategy? You have a charter, you have principles we really didn't talk about, not to sort of, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah, I was wondering how other board members felt if we had a couple more of these sessions to just kind of nail down our foundation for this new structure that we're building. And would y'all be amenable to maybe having like maybe once or twice a month until we have the foundation done meeting like this? How do y'all feel about that? I see heads nodding. Yes. Okay. Awesome.
Does anybody ever do this?
Yeah.
It's such a can-do group. It's such a can-do group. Very
After
happy.
we stop the video, Jim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's emailing after the meeting and stuff. I haven't really looked at chat. Is everybody kind of putting all this, the head nodding this way on the chat that I can't see that I'm not looking at? No. Okay. All right. So it sounds like 1 or 2 sessions sort of a month, and keep working through kind of the pillars of giving the right structure and foundation to what this group is doing going forward. Maybe that means we need to look at the principles, although, you may say, oh yeah, maybe that's a piece of it. Maybe it's also a piece of looking at the charter in totality. Does that also include sort of the structure? Which would go with the mission? Sort of how do we structure subgroups, subcommittees, other actions that the board sort of sanctions or sees needing to be done in order to meet the mission? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's actually going to be very tied together with the racial equity work, because we do want people with lived experience group that has decision-making power. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So maybe after this meeting, we can reach out to you to see what dates would work. I saw a note in the chat that Fridays from 2 to 4 work well. And so we can maybe take a look at, and if that works well for others too, we can reach out to you with some options. Fridays from 2 to 4. We can include a couple other options too, if that works better for you. But I do agree that it's important to protect the time on our calendars right away.
An idea, I mean, I don't know, staff can spend the time figuring this out if it makes sense, but we could almost go through all of these, what is this, red, these red, chunks. That might be one way to cut it, to work through our kind of main, the main bodies of the COC's work. I don't know, it's just a thought.
When you say, Eric, when you say red chunks,
the ones, the leadership for the region, and then, take on funding. I mean, they could almost be their own, sessions or topics. It might help us then keep it, kind of get our brain in that one area on that one topic. I know we want to tie it back to the, concreteness, so that may not work, but.
Okay, I got you. You're pointing over to your side there, and I didn't know what you were pointing at.
Sorry, you're not sitting here looking at it just like me?
No, I don't know. You're pointing over there. I don't know what you're pointing at.
I was pointing at, sorry. Yeah, you've taken the thing down. Oh, I got it. I left the sticky notes up. So I was pointing at the sticky notes. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna go now.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. As next steps, it sounds like we'll look at calendars. We'll get more of these sessions. I think what we'll try to do too is at least I might suggest you sort of frame what some of those objectives are of those sessions, so you get a sense of what the expectations are and maybe what this will lead to. Okay. Any other actions, takeaways? Tamara, anything else that we need to cover?
Just thank you so much, board members.
Yeah.
Thank you.
MAG staff, anything else from your standpoint? I really, we should not end early though, should we? Isn't that sort of, should we ever give people time back?
Yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah. Hey,
15 minutes, Jim.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to remember your 14 minutes and love you for it.
Yeah, listen, thank you. I really think the sticky thing helps expedite getting a lot of ideas down quickly. So I really think we worked through a lot of content, maybe faster than I thought we would do. So thank you for your participation. Thank you. Yeah, as one thing I will just say going forward, as you sleep on your pillow tonight, those sticky notes are going to stay up there. You can still go onto that site. Is there something that you really comes to mind that you want to add to it? That's the great thing about that tool, is that you can continue to sort of dialogue with it. And that group will meet to take that and work with it from there. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Well, I guess you guys will see each other on Monday.
Yes. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye
Have a
now.
good weekend.
Take care. Bye-bye.